In today's video, we explore few men know very wise advice from an 83-year-old woman about women wisdom and insights from a female doctor. Have you ever found yourself grappling with unspoken questions about intimacy, love, or the hidden struggles within relationships? What if the wisdom you seek doesn't lie in a self-help book or a distant lecture, but rather in the timeless words of someone who has experienced it all today? We are sharing the extraordinary story of an elderly woman whose life lessons on intimacy and human connection have touched and transformed many. Her advice goes beyond surface-level suggestions. It dives deep into the essence of vulnerability, authentic communication, and the true nature of love. As you watch, you'll gain a deeper understanding of how to navigate the challenges in relationships, how to understand your own body, and how to cultivate intimacy that thrives on acceptance and compassion. By the end of this video, her profound teachings could transform how you perceive yourself, your relationships, and the meaningful connections that make life worthwhile. Stay with us, because this is not just a video. This is a lesson you don't want to miss. And before we continue, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content. I would love to hear your thoughts on today's topic. If you enjoy this video, comment 1 below. If not, feel free to leave a 0. Your feedback is incredibly important as it helps me create better videos tailored to your interests. Now let's dive in, glimpse into timeless wisdom. It was a golden afternoon with the warm glow of the sun filtering through the rustling leaves of an ancient oak tree. The air was still save for the gentle breeze, whispering through the branches beneath the vast canopy of this magnificent tree. A group of young men and women had gathered, each carrying the weight of unspoken questions on their hearts. Their faces were painted with a mixture of curiosity, nervousness, and hope. They had come to seek the guidance of a wise elderly woman whose insights on life, love, and intimacy had become legendary. The elderly woman, sitting on a weathered bench that had witnessed countless seasons, looked every bit the embodiment of wisdom. Her silver hair was tied loosely, allowing strands to fall gracefully, framing a face that bore the marks of time, soft lines and gentle wrinkles that whispered of years lived with love, pain, joy, and sorrow. Her hands rested calmly on her lap, their veins etched like the rivers on an ancient map. Her eyes, soft yet sharp, glistened with the quiet confidence of someone who had lived through and survived the ebb and flow of life's trials. The group hesitated, uncertain of how to begin. They had come seeking answers, but the enormity of their questions about love, intimacy, why, and self-acceptance made them feel small. In her presence among them was a young man, shy and visibly nervous. His face flushed with embarrassment, and he fidgeted with his hands as his eyes darted from his peers to the elderly woman. Finally, taking a deep breath, he gathered all the courage he could muster and spoke. "Grandmother," he began, his voice trembling, "what should a man do when in a moment of intimacy his body does not respond the way he expects? It's something that frightens us, and we don't know how to face it without feeling ashamed." The words hung in the air like a heavy cloud. The other young men shifted uneasily, their own unspoken fears mirrored in his question. The young women exchanged knowing glances, faces that conveyed empathy, curiosity, and concern. The elderly woman, unfazed by the vulnerability of the moment, nodded slowly. She let the silence stretch, allowing the weight of his words to settle before speaking in a voice that was both steady and soothing. "My dear children," she said, her tone like the soft murmur of a stream, "you must understand that what you are experiencing is far more common than you think. The human body, in all its beauty and complexity, does not always respond as we expect or desire. There are times when the mind, the heart, and the body are not in perfect harmony, and when that happens, the body communicates with us in ways we may not fully understand." She looked around, ensuring that each of the young people felt seen, understood, and heard. An erection. She continued, the hardening of the penis that many men wrongly equate with their worth is not just a physical act. It is deeply connected to your mind, emotions and spirit, stress, exhaustion, fears. Things that may seem small or hidden can create barriers in your body that disrupt the natural flow. It's not a failure, my dear, but rather a signal, a message from within, a call to pay attention to yourself with kindness and to care for your whole being. The young man who had asked the question seemed to relax slightly. The tension in his shoulders softened as her words began to sink in, offering him a sense of relief. One of the other young men, brow furrowed, spoke up, his voice laced with uncertainty. "But grandmother," he asked, "doesn't this mean it's the man's fault? Doesn't it mean he isn't attracted to his partner, or that he doesn't love them enough?" The elderly woman shook her head gently, her eyes softening with a deep compassion that seemed to embrace them all. "Oh, my son," she replied, her voice filled with understanding, "it is not about fault or blame. Intimacy is not a performance, and it should never be a space for judgment when the body does not respond. As you hope, it's not a reflection of your love or your desire. It is simply a sign that something deeper, be it emotional, physical, or spiritual, requires attention." Her words hung in the air, soothing the group, providing them with an insight they hadn't considered before. A young woman with a kind yet earnest expression leaned forward, her voice full of concern. "Grandmother," she asked softly, "if this happens, how can we as partners offer support without making things worse? How can we avoid adding to the shame?" The elderly woman's face brightened with a warm, reassuring smile. She reached out, placing a gentle hand on the young woman's arm, a silent gesture of comfort. "My dear daughter," she began, "the answer lies in love and communication. If in a moment of intimacy the body does not respond, the worst thing you can do is allow shame or silence to take root. Speak to each other. Create a safe space where neither of you feels inadequate or judged. Let your partner know they are cherished for who they are, not for what their body does or does not do." Her eyes seemed to drift inward for a moment, reflecting on her own experiences. She continued, her voice now softer. "More reflective intimacy is not defined by one act," she said. "It is found in the tender moments of connection. It is in the warmth of a lingering embrace, the solace of shy laughter, and the quiet joy of simply being together. It is in the way you hold each other, not with expectation, but with acceptance, that love truly flourishes." A hush fell over the group as her words sank in. Each of them, in their own way, began to understand that intimacy wasn't about perfection. It was about vulnerability, trust, and the willingness to embrace imperfection. Without shame, the elderly woman's wisdom had shifted their perspective in ways they had not anticipated, but she wasn't done yet. "Remember, my children," she continued, "true intimacy is not about perfection. It is about the willingness to be vulnerable, to show your imperfections without fear, and to hold space for your partner to do the same. It is in these moments of raw, unvarnished truth that love becomes its most profound." As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden glow over the gathering, the young men and women rose to their feet. Their hearts were lighter, their minds fuller with the wisdom they had received. They left her presence carrying not just answers, but a deeper understanding of themselves and the beauty of human connection. Before they departed, a young man, his hands still clasped tightly and his gaze downcast, spoke up. "Hesitel." "But grandmother," he asked, "what if this becomes a recurring issue? What if it happens more than once? Should we fear it?" The wise woman turned her eyes toward him, steady and reassuring. "My son," she said, her voice warm, "if this happens repeatedly, it is not a cause for shame. It is, however, a signal from your body asking for your attention. Sometimes it is our way of telling ourselves that something in our lives is out of balance. It could be the weight of work, stress, or unresolved worries. It might even be a physical health issue calling for attention." She continued, her tone imbued with wisdom. If you find this happening more often than you should do, not hesitate to seek help. There is no shame in seeking guidance from a healthcare professional. In fact, doing so is a sign of wisdom, of self-love and love for your partner. Her words were powerful, resonating deeply with each of the young listeners. It was a reminder that seeking help was a sign of strength, not weakness, a reminder that love in all its forms is grounded in understanding, empathy, and communication. A lesson to remember as we conclude this profound lesson today. Remember, the words of this elderly woman in intimacy is not defined by any single act, but by the trust, vulnerability, and love you share with your partner. There will be times when you encounter challenges or when things don't go as expected, but this is not the end of the story. It's just another chapter in your journey together. Let us all strive to approach intimacy, love, and connection with an open heart, free from shame and full of understanding. True love flourishes when we accept each other's imperfections, and all I hope this video helped you gain a new perspective on the complex nature of relationships and intimacy. If you found it helpful, please share it with others who might benefit from these timeless insights.